Welcome to the September 1st, 2010 Municipality of Cambridge Platting Board meeting. Would the Secretary please call the roll?
Lendl Story. Steve Abel.
Here.
Ken Fuller. Ellen McKay.
Here.
Michael Krieger.
Here.
Anastasia Taylor.
Here.
Jody Moses.
Here.
Carol Stolpe.
Here.
Daniel Young.
Present.
We have a quorum, and the first order of business is that we have been advised there have been two postponements. Case S118201 Uplands or Stewart subdivision has been postponed and will be rescheduled at a later time, which was the first case. And the fourth case, S11827-1 Raspberry Center subdivision, has been postponed to October the 6th. Can I have a motion for postponement, please? Mr. Krieger, is there a second? Mr. Abel, is there any objection to the motion? Seeing none, that motion passes, and those two cases have been postponed. The next item is approval of action summaries. We have action summaries for Wednesday, August the 4th, and Monday, August the 9th, 2010. May I have a motion for approval, please? Ms. Taylor and Ms. Moses seconds. Is there any objection? I suppose I should have asked. Is there any discussion? Is there any objection to the motion? Seeing none, the motion passes and the action summaries have been approved. Item B2, approval of minutes. We have minutes, draft minutes for Wednesday, June the 2nd. May I have a motion for approval, please? Ms. Taylor moves to approve. Mr. Krieger seconds the motion. Any discussion?
I'll have to abstain. I wasn't at the meeting.
Okay. Any objection to the motion? Seeing none, the motion passes with Ms. Stolpe abstaining. Okay. Bearing in mind that there are just two cases left on the agenda, are there any disclosures this evening? Any conflict of interest? Seeing none, we'll move ahead. There's nothing on the consent agenda.
Madam Chair.
This is Mr. Young.
I apologize. In the case of S11826-1, the United States Postal Service Main Carrier Track 2A, my firm has worked for the same clients as the presenter in the past, and we've worked toward common goals. I've also worked as a contractor to the presenter's firm. I have no ongoing work with them, and I have not worked on this project. I have no financial or personal interest in the matters before the board tonight. I can remain impartial, in fact, in action as a member of the board.
May I have a motion for Mr. Young's participation, please? Ms. Taylor moves, and Mr. Fuller seconds. Ms. Taylor, would you speak to your motion?
I move for that Mr. Young be directed to participate based on his lack of personal or financial interest in the case before us.
Any other discussion? Any objection to the motion? Seeing none, the motion passes, and Mr. Young, you're directed to participate.
Madam Chair, I have to declare also a possible conflict. Ms. Jim Wood.
Is your mic on?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
Jim Woods, I've done business with Jim in the past and know him for many years. I'm not
Which
involved.
case, please?
The same case. Post office. Property. Let me see what's on. Case S11826-1.
Okay.
Okay. I'm not involved at all in this project, but I do know Jim.
Okay.
I dealt with him in the past, yeah.
And do you feel that you can remain
Oh,
impartial?
absolutely, yeah. I'm doing it. No specific interest at all in that particular piece.
Could I have a motion to direct Mr. Fuller to participate? Mr. Young moves. Carol Stope seconds. Mr. Young, would you speak to your motion?
I intend to support my motion. I believe that Mr. Fuller can act impartially and fairly.
Any other discussion? Any objection to the motion? Seeing none, the motion passes, and Mr. Fuller, you're directed to participate as well. Okay, that brings us to new business, and during the new business portion of the agenda, these are public hearings, and we follow the procedure outlined on the front of the agenda. After the case has been announced and the staff gives their presentation, the chair opens the public hearing. Persons to testify, the petitioner is the first, and they have 10 minutes with, they can reserve rebuttal time if they so choose. Representative of groups such as community councils or PTAs have 5 minutes, and individuals have 3 minutes. We keep track of time with the timer up here at the front. When you're testifying, the light is green. Till the last minute, it turns yellow, and when your time is up, it turns red, and a buzzer sounds, and you should sum up if you haven't by that time. Any individual may have appeal rights relating to any action that the board takes, and the outline of the appeal procedure is on the front of the agenda. So, first case S118, case S11825-1 OH Fast Subdivision. Can we have staff's presentation, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a request to subdivide 2 lots into 2 different lots with vacation of 60-foot by 140-foot portion of Ingress Street, right-of-way north of East 45th Court. It's approximately, the petition area is approximately ½ acre in size. Existing lot 7 has a single-family residential use. Existing lot 2 is now vacant. The existing dwelling unit that has been demolished, and there are plans to construct a new residence. The property is zoned R3. It is located south of the Tudor Road right-of-way, north of East 54th Court, between the Old Seward Highway to the west and Juneau Street to the east. This is a fairly straightforward request. The entire width of this segment of Ingress Street is the subject of the vacation request. It has never been constructed for vehicular traffic. It is heavily treed. The state of Alaska has obtained right-of-way that abuts the north petition site boundary. The former northern tier within the OH Fast subdivision that adjoined this property is now Tudor Road right-of-way, having been taken by the state of Alaska. It's unlikely that this particular right-of-way would be constructed for vehicular traffic. It's unlikely the state would allow access to Tudor Road from this location. There is access to Tudor Road from both Juneau Street and the Old Seward Highway. Generally, the reviewing agencies had no objection to the vacation request, with one exception. Parks and Recreation, the state of Alaska, and the Trails Coordinator stated that there is right-of-way existing. They recommended maintaining 20 feet for pedestrian use. In the future to construct a pedestrian walkway, and that they recommended that as that it only become a partial vacation. There would not be any dedication required because it's already public right-of-way. If the 20 feet were to remain, it would remain in the public domain. It would not become an easement on private property. It would be the responsibility of the municipality to do any maintenance within remaining right-of-way. The Municipal Traffic Department had no objections to the vacation, nor did Project Management and Engineering. Based on the request from those 3 agencies, the state, Parks and Recreation, and the Trails Coordinator, the department does recommend approval of the request to vacate the following right-of-way subject to recording a final plat within 18 months. And on page 18, it states the 20 by 140-foot portion of Ingress Street adjoining the east boundary of Lot 12 and the 20 by 140-foot portion of Ingress Street adjoining the west boundary of Lot 7. That would leave a 20-foot remainder right-of-way to be used for other public purposes such as pedestrian access. The department also recommends approval of the plat for 18 months, subject to 6 conditions that are shown on pages 8 through 9 of the packet. Thank you, Madam Chair. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Ms. O'Brien. Are there any questions of staff? Ms. Taylor.
Thank you. Through the chair, Ms. O'Brien, did staff give you any indication why they're going for 20 feet when walkways are typically 10 feet?
Through the chair, Ms. Taylor, actually, that section of the code says the minimum right-of-way width would be is 10 feet when a walkway is required. Because this is already in the public domain, the 20-foot width was requested by all 3 agencies as it might accommodate. There might need to be steps constructed because there is some topography at the northern portion of this right-of-way. So to build and construct a walkway, 20 feet would be a preferable width.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I have a question through the chair.
Mr. Fuller.
Has this ever been used as a walkway at all in the past?
Madam Chair, Mr. Fuller, it's right-of-way, so it could very well have been used as a cut-through to get to Tudor Road from East 45th Court. The surrounding area is more densely developed. It's generally multifamily residential. It's zoned R3. Single-family dwellings are there's only a very few in this neighborhood. Most of it is multifamily dwellings. So as it was a public right-of-way, it could have been used for pedestrian walkway or pedestrian uses.
Right. Although from the aerial, it doesn't appear that there's any traffic pattern that bisects that easement at all. Has anybody investigated that?
Through the chair, Mr. Fuller, it's just simply, it hasn't been constructed for a public walkway. It hasn't been constructed for vehicular traffic. But pedestrians could walk along that public walkway.
Yeah. And where did the property originally come to the city's ownership from?
The 60-foot right-of-way was dedicated in 1949 with the recording of the original plat for O.H. Fast's subdivision.
Okay, so the dedication came from the property as a request in order to be subdivided. They had to dedicate that access.
Through the chair, that is correct. There was another tier of lots. Tudor Road was not nearly so wide, and it was dedicated to provide vehicular access to Tudor Road as it existed in 1949.
Okay, and is there any anticipation on the north side to construct a connector to that footpath or that bike trail that exists there now? Is that bike trail that goes across the north side?
Through the chair, Mr. Fuller, that's a trail that is within the Tudor Road right-of-way. And if this remaining right-of-way were to be improved with a defined pathway, I'm sure it would be connected to that existing trail along the Tudor Road.
Thank you.
Any other questions of staff? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing, and is the petitioner or the petitioner's representative available?
Good evening. I'm Dennis Pollard. I'm the petitioner. We bought this property last year in hopes of building a duplex on it. As was stated earlier, most of the units around there are fourplexes. There's, I believe, 3 houses in the whole area. What we'd like to do is build a duplex, try to maintain as many trees as we can in the area. We also hadn't realized it when we bought the property, but there's a homeless camp and a lot of trash had been left there. Of course, if it's the Muni's responsibility to keep this clean, I guess I should have called them earlier. I've unloaded 3 pickup trucks plus a dump truck load of dirt out of there, or trash out of there already, and still have a few refrigerators and air conditioners left yet to move. Let's see, we've already got a set of plans built. What we didn't realize when we were drawing them up is that with that being a right-of-way on the side, we needed a 10-foot easement instead of a 5. I left 6 feet on each side of the house. Of course, with the 10-foot, that puts my house about 5 or 6 feet too wide. So if we vacate the land, we'll be able to build the house that we'd like. Frederick, to the east of us, is a handicapped individual. He would like to put a carport on the side of his house, which, with the setbacks and everything, there's not room in the front. That would allow him to do that. Let's see. As far as the bike trail goes, as was mentioned earlier, the hill in the back is about 6 to 8 feet higher than the general area of the lot. If they put that ramp in or a set of stairs, that's going to block all the easements for the utilities along the alleyway on the north end of the properties. That'll go all the way along 45th Court. Right now there's a 20-foot right-of-way back there, which has the sewer, I believe the gas line, and the telephone and electric also. By putting the bike path in there and putting stairs in, I think you can have a high-maintenance area. It's not going to be conducive for bicycles at any rate with stairs. Plus the fact that if the bikes come down the trail out to 45th Court, unless you remove all the trees which go clear to the road, you can have a problem with people coming off the trail at high speeds and, excuse me, and the traffic going across on 45th and potentials of dangerous situations there. Right now there's plenty of access around on Gino and on Seward to get around to the bus stop. There's also a 10-foot easement already established 150 feet to the east of where this proposed easement would be put. That also lines up directly south of the bus stop, which would be a better location. You'd have no stairs to access. It just makes more sense with the traffic flow patterns. One of the problems is people, if they did cross in the middle of the block there, you've got a potential for jaywalking even going across Tudor. There's 2 crosswalks on Tudor, one at Old Seward, and one just before you get to the New Seward Highway. So in the best interest of everybody, traffic flow and the rest, it would probably be better if it was more maintained either as it is now, where people are using the Old Seward sidewalk or the Gino sidewalk, or if they were going to ever put in a trail, to put it in on the 10-foot easement 150 feet east of our property. If a trail must go in, I would prefer a 10-foot. My plan is to landscape right up to where the easement would be and maintain it. I don't know if they're planning on putting in asphalt or what type of trail, but I know on my property there is about 3 feet of peat poor grade soil that has to be excavated before you put in a foundation. which greatly increases the cost of putting a trail in if you're going to put any sub-base in to make a decent trail. Other than that, if you've got any questions.
Okay, you have more than 5 minutes of rebuttal time. Are there any questions for Mr. Pollard? Mr. Fuller.
Mr. Pollard, you mentioned a dedicated footpath already to the east of this, and I don't see it on this aerial at all.
There's a 10-foot easement, 3 lots east. Let's see, it'd be east of Lot 9, I believe. The lots that are over on the old Seward Highway are facing east and west, where all lots are facing north and south. At that divider line, there's a 10-foot easement already through that area.
Oh, to the west of your lot. Okay.
Correct.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Pollard? Mr. Krieger.
Thank you. Through the chair, Mr. Pollard, you're the owner of Lot 12?
Correct.
Okay. And I think I understand your testimony. It's you want the 30 feet that represents the west half of that right-of-way vacated, and you don't want any portion of that to be dedicated or to remain as a right-of-way. Is that
I would prefer it not be a right-of-way.
Okay. I think you said you had done some plans or had some plans prepared for the structure that
Yes.
you hope to build there. And do the plans that you prepared, are the plans that you prepared impacted if you don't have the entire 30 feet up to the midline vacated?
No, what I was hoping to do is instead of putting a 6-foot setback on the west side of my property, I would probably put a 10-foot to where I could plant a few more trees in there between my unit and the next unit. And the way the property sits there, there's actually a little cul-de-sac hole there in the group of trees where my place would slide right into, so it would be surrounded more by the trees.
So, Paul, you didn't do the plans assuming that the authority, whatever, would vacate that 30 feet. You could do it as it stands, but you'd rather have more land to increase the setback. Is that fair?
No.
Okay.
When I drew the plans up, I had eliminated the right-of-way on the side there, thinking it was just like a standard lot with a 5-foot setback on each side. When I drew my plans up, I designed it for 6 foot on each side. So I've got a 38-foot wide structure on a 50-foot lot. If I don't get to vacate, then I'd have to redo my plans in order to make it fit on the lot. With the vacate, I could just move it over a little bit, center it a little better on the larger lot, and that would work out best for me.
Just to follow up if I can, I'm assuming, my questions assume that the board will follow the staff's recommendation to vacate 20 feet, but keep a midline of 10 feet on your side and a 10-foot on the other fellow's side. And so my question is, if that were done, how does that affect your setback?
It wouldn't. That would be more than enough.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Any other questions for Mr. Pollard? Mr. Fuller.
One follow-up. You had mentioned that the area is kind of being camped out in.
Yes.
So would less area for people to trespass or camp out in be better or worse for the neighborhood?
Well, the backside of the property's been kind of turned into a hill as kind of a buffer, I guess, between our lots and Tudor.
Oh, that's the north side. I'm talking about the east side of your lot.
The east side, it just depends on how we configured Frederick's fence and stuff like that as to how much room it would be. The primary area where they're camping is back in the area, the alley area on the north end of the property, up against that hill in the woods there.
So do those people transition between that right-of-way currently?
Actually, since I've cleaned everything up out there, I haven't seen anybody back.
So it would be better for your neighborhood if that access was blocked off instead of improved?
I think it would because of all the trash and stuff. I mean, we've picked up everything from cups from Kentucky Fried Chicken on the north side of Tudu to mattresses, just sleeping bags, bags of clothes, food, everything back there.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Pollard? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to testify in case S11825-1? Anyone at all? Mr. Pollard, do you care to use any of your additional time? He indicates not. So we'll close the public hearing, and the matter rests with the board. Are there any questions of staff at this point? May I have a positive motion, please? Mr. Krieger.
In the case S11825-1 OH Fast subdivision, move to approve the request to vacate the following right-of-way, subject to recording a plat. 20-foot by 140-foot portion of Ingra Street on the east side, and a 20-foot by 140-foot portion of Ingra Street on the west side in blocks 12 and 7, respectively.
Is there a second? Mr. Fuller seconds. Mr. Krieger, would you speak to your motion, please?
Well, I'm going to support the motion. This kind of I was following Mr. Fuller's question, sort of a classic battle of, get property back into the private person's hands versus get some of the property back and retain the opportunity to develop the dedicated 60 feet, or at least 20 feet of that dedicated 60 feet. And the key point for me, I guess, was that the petitioner will, according to his testimony, be able to go ahead and build his structure if he only gets 20 feet versus 30 feet vacated on his side of the right-of-way. And so I'm going to support the motion. I understand the concern about maybe there'll be less trespass and trash if the property is owned privately, but I don't think that outweighs in my mind the need to prove that that land would no longer be valuable to the city as a potential 20-foot right-of-way going north to south. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Ms. Taylor.
I don't intend to support Mr. Krieger's motion as stated. I would support the full vacation of the right-of-way based on the existence of an alleyway 3 blocks to the west that I believe is more functionally appropriate for pedestrian connectivity because that is where the bus stop is located, is directly north of that alleyway. And also because I think although you would be able to build a prettier walkway in the Ingra right-of-way, I think it also has potential to become an attractive nuisance with a wooded area, potential homeless camps and stuff like that. So it's a close one, but in this case, I think the neighborhood would be better served by complete vacation of the right-of-way.
Any other discussion? Mr. Young? Nope. Mr. Fuller?
Oh, I guess in deference to Ms. Taylor's statement, do we have the functionality in this body to modify his request to 30 instead of 20, or not? Or we can only address the issue of the 20-foot?
No. If we think that 10-foot is more appropriate, we could amend Mr. Krieger's motion to 10 feet instead of 20.
30 feet instead of 20.
think what Mr. Fuller meant was, would it be is there an amendment available to vacate all 30 feet as opposed to the proposed recommendation of just 20 feet?
We could amend it to that. Mr. Krieger could withdraw his motion. That's another avenue.
Okay, well, I would offer a friendly amendment that Mr. Krieger would modify his to 30.
It wouldn't be a friendly amendment. You'd have to just make a motion to modify his, you'd have to make a motion to vacate the.
You do, though.
I so make a motion to amend it to be 30-foot vacation instead of 20-foot.
To vacate the full 60-foot right-of-way.
Do we have the ability to do that? And who in case then takes the other 30-foot? The other lot or the petitioner?
The other lot. It divides half and half.
Okay. Then I would make that motion that we would vacate the whole 60 feet for the benefit of that neighborhood for security and protection and beneficial interest.
Is there a second? Oh, wait. Technology is falling behind.
No, we didn't push the button.
Oh, to push the button to make a motion.
I got it.
Okay, and Mr. Young seconds. So you've discussed that pretty well, I would think. Mr. Fuller, is there anything else you want to say about any other discussion on the amendment to vacate the entire right-of-way?
Madam Chair?
Ms. Moses got you first. Ms. Moses is first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You have to push the button.
Go ahead. Go right ahead.
You have to push the button.
I intend to support the motion to vacate the entire, now I'm so confused over the 30, but the entire 60. I intend to support the motion to vacate the entire 60.
Mr. Krieger.
Thank you. I'm going to oppose the motion to amend the motion that I made because I remain, although I agree it's a real close case, I'm not persuaded that whether that land is currently public land or private land with a carport on one side and a duplex coming up on the other. I don't think the possibility that it becomes a better area and less traversed carries the day in terms of whether or not the petitioner has proven that the land is not of value to the municipality. So I'm going to be a stick in the mud and oppose the motion to amend the motion that I made.
Ms. Stolpe, would you?
Do I have that confused look on my face?
Kind of.
I didn't know you could put another motion on the floor if there was already, Mr. Krieger made a motion, and I thought it was seconded. I could have been mistaken. And then Mr. Fuller made a motion.
To amend the motion. You can do that. And you can do that.
You can do that?
Yes, you can.
So where are we, please?
We're at the amended motion.
And that says?
We're dealing with a motion to amend the motion, the original motion.
All right, thank you.
Dealing with Mr. Fuller's motion to vacate the full right-of-way.
Which was not the motion that Mr. Krieger made originally.
No, he's vacating 20 feet on each side, leaving a 20-foot swath in the middle.
Which is what the department recommends?
Correct.
So a no vote, a yes vote supports Mr. Fuller.
Correct.
A no vote doesn't.
Does not support the amendment, and we go back to Mr. Krieger's motion.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Appreciate it.
No problem. Anybody else wishing to speak? It's easier if you push the button that says request to speak on there, then I know.
I see.
Okay, since there's opposition to the well, let's see, I'm going to state what I'm going to do. I'm not going to support Mr. Fuller's amendment. The vacation policy is that we consider that the land is of value to the municipality, and it's up to the petitioner to prove that it's not of value And since we do have departments within the municipality requesting, stating that it is a value, then that's the way I'm going to go with it. So, we need to vote. And hopefully we've explained that a yes vote on the amendment to vacate the entire right-of-way would vacate it, and a no vote is a vote not to support the amendment. Everybody vote? Huh? Okay. Oh? Right, so the motion does not pass. And we're back to the original motion, Mr.
You want to put the votes up on the board there?
Krieger.
Thank you.
It takes 5 votes of the fully constituted board to pass something, and there's only 4 positive votes, so it does not pass. And we're back to the original motion, Mr. Krieger's motion to vacate. And I assume we have opposition to that motion? Yes, no? No? Is there any opposition to Mr. Krieger's motion? Right, vacate 20 feet on each side. Is there opposition? There is opposition, okay. Then we need to vote. Councilor Brown.
So, can you clarify the vote? Never mind, I do understand.
All right. That motion passes, and the vacations are approved. The 2 separate 20-foot vacations are approved. Moving on to the plat, Mr. Krieger.
In the same case, approve the plat for 18 months, subject to the 6 conditions as stated in the department's recommendation.
Is there a second? Ms. Taylor seconds. Is there any opposition to the motion? Seeing none, the motion passes and the plat is approved for 18 months. The next case is case S11826-1, U.S. Postal Service Main Carrier Station. May we have staff's presentation, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This is a request to amend a condition of approval that requires a plat no prohibiting direct vehicular access to A Street as well to A Street. The preliminary plat for proposed Tract A2 and A3 of the United States Postal Service Main Carrier Station was approved under the abbreviated or short plat process. It was approved to a number of conditions. The condition that is of concern tonight is condition 15A, that it requires a plat note to be placed on the plat stating direct vehicular access to A Street or to 36th Avenue is prohibited. That condition was initially placed on the plat in response to comments from both the State of Alaska and the Municipality of Anchorage Traffic Department. A Street is a state-owned and maintained right-of-way. They requested a prohibition on direct vehicular access to A Street. The Municipal Traffic Department requested a no prohibiting direct vehicular access to 36th Avenue. The property owners or petitioner's representative did approach the State of Alaska to request that they be allowed to have one direct vehicular access to A Street from Tract A2. The State of Alaska, in reviewing that request, did recommend that their comments be amended to state that vehicular access to A Street shall be under an approved permit. The comment is not necessarily specific enough to what Platting Board is used to. The Municipal Traffic Department didn't have any comment on access to A Street because that street's not under their jurisdiction. So the recommended amendment to Condition 15A that would be required on the preliminary plat involves 3 proposed plat notes stated on page 5. Direct vehicular access to East 36th Avenue from Tract A2 is prohibited. Only A2 has frontage on to East 36th Avenue. Direct vehicular access to A Street from Tract A2 is subject to an approved driveway permit issued by the Alaska Department of Transportation and Public Facilities. It's important to note in a plat note which entity issues the driveway permit. There was no request to the state to amend access to A Street from Tract A3. So therefore, the recommended plat note, third one, it would be direct vehicular access to A Street from Tract A3 is prohibited. That's basically the request to amend that condition of approval, and these are the recommended plat notes that be placed on the final plat. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Bryan. Are there any questions of staff? Seeing none, may we have the petitioner's representative, please? We open the public hearing and hear from the petitioner's representative.
Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Tanya Hickok. I'm a civil engineer and planner at Dow HKM, and tonight we represent the petitioner, the U.S. Postal Service. We believe that this request is pretty much a simple housekeeping for the plat note modification. The original public hearing was done in February of 2010. At that time, 15A was requested as a plat note. Subsequent to the public hearing, we asked the DOT for a meeting, and we met with Scott Thomas, the traffic engineer, and Lance Wilbur for a meeting, and found that they had originally assumed that A Street in that portion was actually a controlled access area, and we pointed out to them that it actually was not a controlled access area. So they reconsidered access to A Street and have on, I believe it's page 14 of your packet, you can see the letter that they wrote in response to our meeting that they would not prohibit access from A Street with an approved driveway permit. We actually have, in fact, submitted a driveway permit to DOT, and currently it's in process. And just so you know, what we're proposing is actually a right-in only from A Street onto the tract, the northern tract, I believe that's A3. And we have reviewed the staff packet prepared by Margaret, and we agree with the findings, and we agree with the proposed plat notes on page 5. So with that, I'd like to reserve any of my time for rebuttal.
You have 7 minutes. Are there any questions for Ms. Hickok? Ms. Taylor.
Hi. Through the chair, plat note C says direct vehicular access to A Street from tract A3 is prohibited, and perhaps you could explain to me how A3 could ever access A Street.
Actually, the proposed route that we're proposing for Tract A2 actually will go through the DOT right-of-way. If you look at that map, let's see what figure would best show that. On page 7, figure 3, there's a little triangular piece right there that abuts A Street. That's actually DOT right-of-way. It was taken quite a while ago when A Street was originally taken, and that's we've approached DOT right-of-way, and they would allow us to have that right-in through that right-of-way. So, you know, the reason for that note, I believe, would be to prohibit the post office from taking that same type of access.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions, Mr. Cook? Seeing none, you have 7 minutes left for rebuttal. Anyone else wishing to testify in case S11826-1, United States Postal Service main carrier? Anyone at all? Seeing none, would you care to use any more? Okay, Ms. Hickok indicates she's good. And we'll close the public hearing. Are there any questions of staff? Does the board have any questions of staff? Seeing none, may I have a positive motion in case S11826-1, please? Ms. Taylor, is there make your motion.
In the matter of case S11826-1, I move for approval of the amendment to Condition 15A required on the preliminary plat approval for case S11788 as follows, with condition or notes A, B, and C as noted in the staff packet.
Ms. Stolpe seconds. Would you speak to your motion, please, Ms. Taylor?
Based on the information presented by staff and the petitioner's representative, I think it's a logical modification to a restrictive note.
Any other discussion? Any objection to the motion? Seeing none, the motion passes and the plat notes, or let's see, the amendment is approved. Okay, that's the end of the new business portion, the public hearing portion. Are there any persons to be heard? Any reports? I don't have a report. Secretary, committees, board member comments?
Madam Chair, I have a procedural question and possible clarification. In the case, I'm sorry I put it up here, but my procedural question is, I voted opposite of what my intent was just because it wasn't clear on, am I allowed to change that on the record now, or is it just, it passed regardless of my vote, but is there, from a procedural perspective?
I actually would have to verify that, but we can put it as a specific comment.
Okay.
In the record for you that you voted. Now, was that for the amendment or the main motion?
The main motion.
It was for the main motion, and I actually got a little confused on what my vote would allow me to do later, but it's irrelevant now. And then my second question, if I may, is just for some clarification. Madam Chair, if you're allowed to, is you made reference to, in referring to the vacate policy, the vacation policy by the municipality having to do with value to the municipality. Can you, I looked over on page 10 of that packet of that case, and I didn't, and again, I'm obviously maybe not on my A game tonight, but I certainly understand what's here, but I didn't see specific to, and I apologize, I can't remember how you worded it, but the value.
Part of that came from the comment portion. The municipality vacation policy states that the land is considered to be of value, and that's up to the petitioner. Oh, there it is. I'm just in the wrong case.
Madam Chair?
It's on page 7. Platting authority shall consider the merits of each vacation request, and in all cases, platting authority shall deem an area being vacated to be of value to the municipality unless proven otherwise. And I just didn't feel that the petitioner carried that burden of proof, particularly since there were non-motorized transportation coordinator said that they didn't want it all vacated. Parks and Rec didn't want it all vacated.
Right. I guess I was just referring to the bullet-pointed policy on page 10, not specific to the reference there, so I just wanted some.
Any other,
Thank you.
any other board comments?
Madam Chair?
Mr. Krieger?
I can't help but notice there's a lot of folks in the audience, but no cases to be heard. I don't know whether they were expecting, whether they just liked looking at us, or whether they were expecting one of the two cases that was postponed to go forward, and it's
No,
unfortunate.
they have to be here.
Oh, it's the class. Oh, okay, it's your class.
It's my class.
Okay. Well, we always appreciate public participation. And also on that note, I think I'm rotating off the board. I think this will be my last meeting, and it's been a privilege to serve with you all.
So you're not going to come to October's meeting because
Pardon me?
your term is through the middle of October.
Through the middle of October, so I have one more meeting?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You'll be here?
I'll be here.
Okay. Any other comments? Motion to adjourn? Mr. Young, thank you very much. We are adjourned. Ms. O'Brien, do you want the packets that we didn't hear tonight, the postponements?